Why should you visit the Chairshot.com? The Chairshot.com is your home for hard-hitting reviews, news, opinion, and analysis with attitude. Why? Because you're smarter than the average fan. The Chairshot.com. Always use your head.
That's it? I kind of expected something a little bit longer.
It's like the 6th week of it.
It always catches me by surprise. I expect we have longer intro music for the Greg DeMarco show. I just kind of expect that my show also gets long intro music, but
it's
I
on
guess
YouTube.
not.
Remember, and in the first show, people said the intro was too long, and so we shortened it. It's because of the YouTube.
It's because of the YouTube. Well,
YouTube. That's why I can't play real songs.
No, I know I know that's why we can't play real songs, but that doesn't still mean we can't have some song in there. What's the point of the song? Look, people on YouTube, I appreciate your feedback. Thank you very much. But, it's the little things in life that get us through each and every day. And for me, it's having my own theme song. Don't you all wish you had your own theme song? Everyone says that, everyone wishes they had their own theme song that they could just walk around to and have playing in the background. I wouldn't pick that as my theme song, but, that's the theme song I have. If you can't be with the one you love the one you're with. And that's really my philosophy when it comes to theme songs.
Wait, wrong thing. Hang on.
Why should you? Chairshot.
You don't like it? For your theme song?
That's okay.
Builds. Wait for it. All right. Lights go out. And they fire back up. Here you come. See? Perfect. Tell you what, that's why there's a next week. Next week it'll be 8.5 minutes.
long. I got Greg to play the full theme song after I criticized it, and he was trying to show me why it's good. That's some kind of psychology in there, if you haven't figured that out.
Maybe. I don't even know. I'm just like, whatever. But, next week, you will have the entire show will just be your song. An hour of your song.
And an hour of my song, no.
Looking dead at the camera, not moving it. We'll just be like.
We'll just be super still. That's how we review SummerSlam.
People won't even know that we're live unless somebody walks behind us. Literally.
Yeah. And no one can walk behind this because it's just a screen, so nobody would know. True. Except maybe if a fly came in. But so you may be wondering, what is this randomness? This is the hashtag Miranda Show, a proud part of the Chairshot Radio Network on the Chairshot.com.
The Chairshot.com. Always use your head.
The Chairshot.com. Always use your head.
I am your host, the Twitterless heroine herself, the queen of soft style, Miranda Morales. I'm happy to be with all of you today. Of course, I have to add in one of my newer favorite names is the most professional podcaster. Thank you so much to Andrew Balaz for bestowing that on me. I've taken it and run, so thank you. Again, that's what happens when Greg doesn't get all the credit. He gets just maybe a little defensive, little.
Bitches!
I still got the buttons.
Just a little bit, yes. So I have my co-host, a great friend, a good guy, the kingpin of the Chairshot.com, Mr. Greg DeMarco, also here with us.
Are you really fucking with me right now? Are you fucking with me?
See, I can't play songs, but I can play sound bites. No, thank you. I'm excited to be here because I have to be. So, yeah.
Also, yeah.
But I want to be. but I want to be. I have to be, and I want to be.
That's a typical man response. They have to. You're pretty well trained to know that you have to be somewhere, but you also want to be. That's really, I mean, if it's any conversation I've ever had with any man, it's not only do I want, I want you to want you to. That's pretty much every conversation I've ever had with any man. So you've been trained well. I
mean, yeah, I know what I'm doing.
You know what you're doing.
Contrary to popular belief, I know what I'm doing.
Yes. So before we get into this week's topics, which I think are going to be a lot of fun, we got to tell you where you can follow us at social media or on social media, on the social media, however you want to say it.
On social, as they say.
On the socials?
It's all.
On the
They don't say on the socials. They just say on social, apparently.
On social. The socials. The socials.
The socials.
Oh, then we went off the rails real quick to this week.
Not real. I mean, okay, it might be off the rails for some people, but that's nothing.
This is really our standard conversation. Really, this is actually the first time Greg and I will really talk. We communicate a lot through text messages and messaging throughout the week related to podcast business and other items, fitness and wrestling news. But this is really, and we of course record the Greg DeMarco show, which is also part of the Chairshot Radio Network on the Chairshot.com.
Oh man, I wasn't ready for that.
The Chairshot.com. Always use your head.
Throw a wild card at me.
Wild card, bitches! Yeah!
I always do. But this is really the first time all week that we actually just get to talk. And it comes out like this. So everyone has things like that.
Yeah. Like I mean, if we'd have to I wonder if we went back and said, okay, what show did we record after we had a phone call? And did it not go off the rails? It'd be really interesting, but that's way too much work. I'm not doing that.
That's way too much work. And ain't nobody got time for that.
No.
We barely got time for this.
Exactly. Do I have Ain't Nobody Got Time for That sound? I do.
Anybody got time for that?
Mm-hmm.
Classic.
Mm-hmm. Yes, classic. Mm-hmm. So before we get into this week's topic, we want to let you know where you can find us on the socials. Of course, I'm the Twitterless heroine. You cannot find me on Twitter, but you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at the #Miranda. Greg, well, he's on the socials, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Chairshot Greg. And of course, you can follow the Chairshot on social medias, all the socials, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Chairshot Media. The reason why I mentioned this last but not least is because, well, this weekend we do have a takeover happening on Saturday, Takeover 30, which means I may or may not be taking over the Chairshot's Twitter on Saturday. So, and I say that really literally, I am not entirely sure if I'm going to be doing this. Chances are solid, but who knows? So go ahead and follow at Chairshot Media. Chairshot Media. Say that 3 times fast. Follow at Chairshot Media, and maybe you'll find me on Twitter. Maybe it will be the day that I am on Twitter, learning how to navigate wrestling Twitter, which is very scary. One of the most scariest things I've ever done.
No, it's not scary. It's just a cesspool, and you can dip your toe in the water and then take it out.
Cesspools are scary. Cesspools can be very scary. They're full of bacteria. You don't know what you're going to get. It can be really grimy and slimy and all that kind of stuff, and not my forte. So
you know what's in a cesspool? A cesspool is kind of like a plane full of bad motherfuckers.
Some of the baddest motherfuckers on the planet are on that plane.
But is it? Is it really?
I guess it depends on the cesspool. I don't know. If we did Pot is War and name the show after funny things that were said during the show, we would name this show It Depends on the Cesspool. But we're not going to. So Andrew last week was disappointed that I didn't name the Greg DeMarco show Duct Tape and Chris Jericho, or Held Together with Tape and Chris Jericho. But AEW didn't even make the list, so I couldn't have done that.
No, look, we refused. last week's Greg DeMarco show was one of my favorites, like literally one of my favorites.
Sorry, mainly out if you're listening. Sorry.
Yeah, no, well, mainly because I didn't get criticized or made fun of, which was really nice. Andrew Belaz was a treasure. He was a treat. And I was just, happy to be there. And we didn't let AEW on the list. Like, usually I am the AEW supporter, and Greg is very critical. The roles were reversed. It was a crazy time. It was a crazy world we live in, but we were adamant, and they didn't make it on the list.
I released the list this week at the Chairshot.com, actually Tuesday. And it was interesting because I even kind of told a story about how we came to it. And I was like, right around like number 5, I was like, hey, what about AEW? And then and it just never made the top 10, along with the Universal Championship did not make the top 10 either. But the top 10 we're talking about, by the way, are top 10 championships in pro wrestling today. Our list was based on importance and had a lot of different factors that went into each belt that was on there. And it's a very interesting list. So go to the Chairshot.com, check it out, and see what we came up with. Because it was, even going back and rewriting it, it was just like, wow, we really did do that. And where we put some things. Like, we love some NXT and really build the importance of NXT. But, yeah, it was good shit. And the Intercontinental Championship, too. Like, I think people will be happy with that. Upset with some other things, but yeah, it's just how it goes. So.
This is such good shit.
Not quite sure how we got into this topic, but again, go ahead and follow at Chairshot Media on Twitter, because I may be taking over the Chairshot's Twitter account this weekend for NXT TakeOver 30.
Oh, you reminded me of something when you said that earlier. You were like, it's Saturday. Who knows? It's several days away. I don't know. When I was at a former location that I worked before they shut the whole thing down, I had this one employee that every meeting invitation that gets sent out, he would reply tentative. And every single one, he would always reply tentative. And I was like, dude, why are you always replying tentative? He's like, I don't know what's going to happen on that day. I might be sick. I might not be here. I might get hit by a bus. I can't say I'm going to be there. What if something happens? And I was just like, okay, never mind. But that was, we all got one.
That's insane. And that's hilarious.
By the way, if you're working somewhere, I just said we all have one. If you're working somewhere and you don't have one of those people, that means you are that person.
Yeah, you may be that person. If you can't identify who that person is, it's because it may be you.
If you don't have a weird friend, you're the weird friend.
That weird friend. Yeah. And I don't have weird friends. So I know where I stand.
You do.
I mean, not as weird as me. Like that's hard to beat.
That's a high bar.
It's a really high bar. Go for the top. Shoot for the stars. All that kind of bullshit.
Don't even bother.
Don't
chase what you can't catch.
No, yeah. I'm number 1, I'm totally okay with that. I'm the weirdest person I know, and that's totally fine. And that's probably not super true, but I like to believe so. And that's totally okay with me. But yes, follow us on the socials, whatever it is. Go follow us at Chairshot Media, at Chairshot Greg, and at the hashtag Miranda. Also, something that you can do, you can go to prowrestlingtees.com/thechairshot and get your very own Chairshot t-shirt today. You can find over 25 different t-shirt designs available, including some new ones. But of course, I always have to plug in the Queen of Soft Style t-shirt. That is my t-shirt. It is a beautiful t-shirt that you can get. And of course, you can get that in soft style. Why would I do that to you? Why would I do you dirty like that? I wouldn't. That's why you can get the Queen of Soft Style t-shirt in soft style. Now, t-shirts start at $19.99. But again, you do have to pay a few extra dollars to go soft style, but it is worth it. You should treat yourself. You know why? Because you're beautiful and you're amazing and you're a great person. Unless you're not a great person, then don't use this as an excuse to say, oh, Miranda said I'm a great person, so I could do, terrible things. That is not an excuse. You should still buy a t-shirt, because people deserve t-shirts, but don't use the excuse that you're a good person if you're not a good person. That's just philosophy from
especially because you don't know them. You don't really know if they're a good person. I don't.
I like to think that most people are good people, and I want to tell you out there, if you really feel like you're a good person, it's very likely that you're a good person. But there's some people out there who are not good people.
Yes, and don't use like Marina said. Don't use this. She don't know you. If you're a good person, she knows you, and she's right. But if you're a bad person, she don't know you. Don't use that. You're a bad person. Still buy a T-shirt, but it ain't gonna make.
Still buy a T-shirt because hey, that steps to progress. Buying a T-shirt could help you be a better person.
Buy a T-shirt, get a job, take a shower, say thank you, open a door, do something.
Yeah. Especially going to ProWrestlingTees.com/The Chairshot and buying a T-shirt will help. That I can, put my stamp of approval on. So again, ProWrestlingTees.com/The Chairshot to get your very own Chairshot T-shirt today.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Hey folks, PC Tony here. Thanks to our new partnership with Angry Lemonade, you can save 10% on physical products and digital commissions using the promo code ChairShot. Head to angrylemonade.net to check out their amazing catalog of products and services. Use the promo code ChairShot to save 10%. That's angrylemonade.net.
Are you looking for the newest and hottest in the world of pro wrestling? Then check out the amazing action on Powerslam.tv, the biggest indie pro wrestling channel in the world. Get over 6,000 hours of the best events from over 150 of your favorite promotions from 20 different countries around the globe. Brands like Progress Wrestling, Evolve Wrestling, Combat Zone, Defy, PCW Ultra, PWX, Over the Top, Shine, and hundreds of others with fresh content added every day for only $5.99 per month. Get your free trial today at Powerslam.tv.
That's over 150 of your favorite promotions found exclusively at Powerslam.tv. So go to Powerslam.tv and you'll get a free week. But if you use the promo code ChairShot, you will get a free month. Now, a month is only $6, but why not try it out and see if you like it first? And do it on us. Go to Powerslam.tv, promo code ChairShot, get your free month. Again, that's Powerslam.tv, promo code ChairShot.
TheChairshot.com. Always use your head.
All right, there we go. Thank you so much to all of our sponsors and partners for supporting TheChairshot.com. You guys are all lovely. That I can vouch for. Yes?
I agree. I agree 100%. They are vouchable because they are partnered with TheChairshot.com.
TheChairshot.com. Always use your head.
By the way, just because, this is on the YouTube, that is the voice of Amber. Just so everybody knows, Amber. You don't know Amber. She's literally appeared on like 2 Chairshot things. Like 2 years ago, she did a Cocktails with Cramber, which is a show that she did with Christopher Platt.
TheChairshot.com. Always use your head.
Because they're together chilling in their condo in Atlanta. So there you go. That's who voices are. You can, of course, hear Christopher Platt on 3-Man Weave and Pot is War. You can hear Amber basically never. So, yeah.
On these commercials.
On those commercials.
TheChairshot.com. Always use your head.
So this is a podcast in which we discuss pro wrestling, primarily. Of course, we talk about random stuff all the time, as you've heard from the first, 10 minutes of this show. But we usually primarily talk about pro wrestling. And this week's topics are 2 that are fairly WWE based. Last week, we spent the whole cast talking about AEW. So, I like to spread the love. And there's so much going on that, of course, it's why not? We could focus on one show one week and another product another week. There's a lot of wrestling to go around, trust. Even though, there's COVID-19 and, the world's kind of ending, there's still lots of wrestling. So, ergo, we still
How does the world kind of end? Like, either the world ends or it doesn't. How does the world kind of end?
Have you been living in this world for, like, the past 6 months? It's been kind of ending, You die a little bit inside every day, but you still keep on living. I don't know. Are we the Walking Dead now? I'm not sure.
Maybe we're all dead and zombies. We don't even know it.
Yo, that's deep.
Like, that deserves this.
Are you really fucking with me right now? Are you fucking with me?
Because if we're that, then somebody.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't believe we're zombies. I feel like maybe mentally we feel like zombies, but physically we are not yet zombies. But hey, you never know. It could be coming. This could be the first wave. Yeah.
Zombie us and human us would have weird internal conversations.
Dave,
It's me, Dave.
See, I just say things so I can play a soundbite afterwards.
No, that is also true. But don't get me into zombie philosophies, because zombie is one of my favorite genres, favorite aspects of pop culture. So I just have an extensive knowledge and also just theories about zombieism, zombie, universes, zombie viruses, all of that. And that could be a whole show. Literally, I could just say, you know what? We're going to scrap all this and talk about zombies. But we're not. Because this is, as I just said, it's a podcast in which we talk about pro wrestling. We have some really good topics to talk about this week, so we're just going to push on to that. The first topic is one that I've actually waited to talk about. This was one, Greg, as we were conversing several weeks ago, you had mentioned this as a possible topic, and I said, you know what, I want to hold out a little bit to see what happens. And I'm glad I did, because there's been a little bit more development in this story, in this program, and there's been layers to it that have been added just as recently as this past week. So I want to first go into a little bit of a background on it, and then go into some of the more recent events and kind of our thoughts on this particular program. And what is that? Well, I want to talk about Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax. This is a rivalry, a program that has been building for probably about the past month or so. One that I think a lot of fans are excited about, but there's still lots of layers to it. It kind of has some stops and goes, and we'll get into that in a second. But let's start off with kind of the history, where we've been with them over the past few months. A lot of this started when both women competed in the Money in the Bank ladder match that was ultimately won by Asuka. That was back in May, yes.
Definitely May.
Yes, May.
Definitely after WrestleMania, not before.
After WrestleMania, yes. Sometimes you get, months that have the same.
It's COVID. Who knows?
Yeah.
Time is the flat circle, or whatever Patrick said.
Both women competed in the women's ladder, Money in the Bank ladder match, and again, they did not win. So, we don't see both women for a little bit of time. Then, though, on July 13th edition of Raw, we see Shayna Baszler come back. She actually interrupts a segment between R-Truth and Akira Tozawa. She beats up some ninjas, comes back all badass, and she calls out all of the women's champions as far as both Raw and SmackDown, saying that she's coming after them. So we get, a sneak peek of what's to come with Shayna Baszler on July 13th. On July 27th, we have Nia Jax coming out and airing her grievances on not winning the Raw Women's Championship. At this point, she had been in some matches against Asuka, and so she's had some more TV time at that point than Shayna Baszler. But again, things weren't connecting until this moment when Shayna Baszler came out to interrupt Nia Jax during her promo, and the shit talking just continues until we get a match between them, which ended in a double countout. So we've seen both of these women already in the ring, but with a double countout, you knew that the story was going to continue. But then we kind of had a break. We didn't see them for a little bit. Nia Jax ended up getting a suspension based off of the results of the match from July 27th. During that countout, she pushed a WWE official, and by push, I mean she pushed him, and then she beat him up. So she did get a fine, and then on the August 3rd edition, the next week, she got indefinitely suspended when she pretty much went all in and beat the crap out of him again. So we hadn't really seen any interactions between these two competitors until this week's Raw, the 17th, where Shayna Baszler teamed up with Asuka against the women's tag team champions, Sasha, Banks, and Bayley, in which Nia came out to attack Shayna. And so I'm going to stop at this point because there's a little bit more to tell with that. But up to this point, this is where we've kind of gotten this on and off starting point with Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. As far as this stop and go, at first I wasn't necessarily thrilled with that stop and go, but again, for me as a storytelling fan, I kind of like to have a rapid flow of things, something continuous. But what I do know is that there's little elements that have been playing along through these past weeks that don't always necessarily need it to involve both women, that you could have just had one or the other, and eventually their paths merge. You also see Asuka playing a role in this, as at the time being a women's champion and then losing it. And now, Shayna having an alliance with her, but at one point, Nia wanting to beat her. So again, there's also bringing in other people into the story that made it very interesting. But, I think overall, it's been a good story to tell so far. You have two of the most, I would say, fiercest women on the Raw roster, even in all of WWE, competing, and in very different ways, where you have more of the MMA background of Shayna Baszler being a legitimate badass compared to the size advantage of Nia Jax. So two very different stories and styles that they've been brought together in a story. Greg, what was your thought process when you were even just first introducing this topic to me several weeks ago? Why did you think it was important enough to talk about in this format?
So for me, it was all about Shayna Baszler. Shayna Baszler, this feud, and a lot of people scoffed at it, especially on social media, especially on whatever we call it. On the socials. Anyway, people scoffed at it because it's Nia Jax, and we hate Nia Jax on Twitter. It's kind of a rule on Twitter. If you're on Twitter, you don't like Nia Jax. It's just one of those things. You don't like Roman Reigns.
Can I write that down for TakeOver?
You could, and then you could at some point during a random match be like, "Oh, by the way, from what I understand, I'm supposed to hate Nia Jax because I'm on Twitter."
Yeah,
no, it actually gets a good reaction. Yes, write that down. But to me, she's the perfect opponent for Shayna Baszler as long as Shayna Baszler wins, because Shayna Baszler has the type of offense that should be able to neutralize anybody, no matter what their size, strength, anything. And if Baszler is able to take out Nia Jax, which Asuka did in NXT, and I get that, but that to me is actually going to help Shayna Baszler. And again, I know Twitter would disagree because it's Nia Jax, but if you look at the casual fan, the main target audience of WWE, the visual of Shayna Baszler beating the crap out of Nia Jax and putting her to sleep, or making her tap, probably putting her to sleep, will get her over with that fan base. And so to me, this was the ideal feud to build for SummerSlam. Now, I don't think it's going to happen at SummerSlam because the Raw side of that's already pretty stacked. But to me, this was just the perfect feud to really establish Shayna Baszler. She was established in NXT, quickly came in and got a shot at Becky Lynch, lost. And that's kind of how it works, right? You come in, you get a high-profile match, you lose. Then you start to build and establish the person. And that's what they were doing with Shayna Baszler. And to me, that's what Nia Jax was the perfect opponent to do.
Mm-hmm. And even when you're going back and looking at just, again, the differences in size, but also in kind of where their strengths are as competitors, you're right. What Shayna brings to the table with her skill set is what can neutralize Nia Jax and her size. And that's also been kind of a big complaint about a lot of people who face Nia Jax, is how credible can an opponent be when there's an obvious size disadvantage. I think a lot back to her rivalry program with Alexa Bliss. A lot of times it didn't make sense when Alexa won because obviously, Nia could beat her physically. They did play on more of the emotional side and mental side of this, and Alexa playing a lot of games and kind of emotionally and mentally taking a toll on Nia. But also at this point, the women's roster is being presented in a very different way. In general, you have a lot more athletic competitors in all of WWE now, and you have to really look at, again, how do people stack up so that everyone can be a threat in their own way. And I agree. I feel like this program in particular is a great way to help elevate Shayna, but also make Nia look strong. You have one of the best fighters in all of WWE. I believe that 100%. And we'll go into the whole fighting aspect of this very shortly, but it's a really great way to also reintroduce Shayna back into the fold. I mean, she was gone pretty much from May until July, and a lot of people were curious, and a lot of people were, also kind of dismayed that they had kind of lost the momentum that they built Shayna up with Becky. And you know, out of all the people on the Raw roster that people were excited to have, I mean, Shayna was one of them. So this builds up some of that excitement, and it's, again, a good story to tell. It's something that's very interesting, and I can appreciate what WWE is doing with women's storytelling. Talked about last week and all the areas that AEW was somewhat failing in their women's divisions and things that they could do. And it's so easy to crap on WWE for a lot of things, the things that they do and they don't do. But one thing, and I would say a lot of it is their saving grace, for the most part, is the presentation of their women's roster.
Yeah, they protect the women's roster, and partially because of the way women are viewed and the way they've treated women in the past, and so they do have to protect them, and it leads to Shayna Baszler, Nia Jax as well. I just want to confirm, did you say Nia Jax is one of the best fighters on the roster?
No, if I did, that was not the intent.
Okay, good.
I would say I meant to say Shayna Baszler is one of the best fighters.
Absolutely. Yeah. But for a second there, I thought you were saying Nia Jax, one of the best fighters on the roster, and I was like, wait, we got to talk about this.
Yes,
but,
no. That was definitely a slip up. If that was,
I was just making sure because if someone thought that, then I need to rescue your credibility, and because you don't want that on you. So, yes, she is not saying Nia Jax is one of the best fighters on the roster. Although maybe based on the number of people she's injured, she would be, but who knows?
At this point, I think maybe she's injured more people than
she literally barely touched the plexiglass on Raw on Monday and it popped off the thing. Like, she is just she just is cursed. Don't go near Nia Jax.
I want to go into another element of the story because this is one that I think either we've talked about on air or off air regarding Raw Underground and Shayna Baszler. So again, we still have Raw Underground. It's a thing. We'll see how long this whole thing lasts. But one of the things that about Raw Underground that we had anticipated was, when is Shayna Baszler going to show up? The first few weeks it was very male focused. But last week on the August 10th edition of Raw, we did see Shayna Baszler make an appearance. And that is a perfect element, not only for her, but for Raw Underground. You think about this, whole Fight Club, underground, mysterious, whatever adjectives you want to throw at it. But you need to have credible people at Raw Underground in order to establish it. And what's more credible than an actual MMA fighter in Shayna Baszler? She took down not one, not two, but 3 people. So, and I think you had mentioned it, Greg, too, that Raw Underground could be that type of scenario where that's where people go off to blow steam. That if you don't have a successful match on Raw, you can go to Raw Underground and kick some ass.
And Shayna Baszler whooped some ass when she was in Raw, and she should. And it's, she's built for that. She almost as much as somebody else is built for that. But that's a sidebar that I'm gonna make sure we get to, but not yet. But that was, she's perfect for Raw Underground, and kind of appropriate that Nia went there to find her.
Yeah, so exactly. This week we did see that Shayna Baszler wasn't alone. So after her match with Asuka, after she had that tag team match with Asuka against Bayley and Sasha Banks, we did see her in the back with her 2 fellow horsewomen. And so that was a pretty big deal. We hadn't seen them in a while. And so you knew something was coming up, especially after, again, we saw them talking to Shane McMahon. So, we got the feeling.
I just wanted you, because at this point, I got giddy. I got real.
Oh, okay. So explain.
So now I'm going to sidebar then, because it's just all has to go together.
Might as well.
Marina Shafir is probably the biggest badass in the entire company. Like like real life, like it's Brock Lesnar and it's Marina Shafir. Like literally, she is so Brock Lesnar. It's often been said that if wrestling were real, Brock Lesnar would become world champion and would never lose the championship. Like he's that overpowering. He's that good. Well, to me, that's Marina Shafir. Like when it comes to actual real fighting, she would beat Shayna Baszler probably in the first round of a fight. Like she is a legitimate badass in there. And when she stepped into the Raw Underground and just started whipping ass, like poor Brandy Lauren, Florida independent talent, just got destroyed. And it was just like, this is like Marina Shafir, not that great in the ring when she was in NXT. Neither is Jessamine Duke. But when you let her go in Raw Underground, I mean, it was perfect. And I was so excited because it was, you know, you think about all the people on the roster that could excel there and all the names that we've talked about. And Marina Shafir wasn't the first to come to mind because kind of out of sight, out of mind. But, man, when I saw them talking to Shayna, I was like, oh, boy, like people are really going to – I don't think a lot of WWE fans realize just how good she is because wrestling's not really her thing, but fighting is. And, man, when she went out there and just started going off, like I was like, this is – if they can somehow use this to launch her, she could be a big star if they treat her like a badass. Like she could be what they don't have because Ronda Rousey's not there. She could actually be that and just completely destroy people. And I mean, I know they're together, but man, I would love to see Shayna Baszler and Marina Shafir. Even in the Raw Underground, who knows? But I loved every second of it and the world. And you could tell like she was happy doing what she was doing. Like the person was happy doing what she was doing. And it was great. And when they were talking to Shane, I was like, my God, I really hope she gets in there and starts fighting.
Oh yeah. I mean, there was it just wouldn't have made any sense. Like as much as, you know,
well, my fear is that it would have been Jessamine Duke and not Marina Shafir. Yeah. And no disrespect to Jessamine Duke, but Marina Shafir is a badass. Mm-hmm. Badass. Real life badass. Would beat most of the men's roster. Badass.
Yeah. And that's the one thing I do wish we see when Shayna made her way to Raw Underground, you know, they still kept it very gender specific. I think, again, the fact that this is supposed to be no rules and it's, you know, it's all fighting style. The fact that they're like, oh, no, women beat up women. It's like, well, then there are rules. And then this isn't as cool as you think it is, Shane McMahon. And I was obviously right. But
that might happen.
It still may happen. It still may happen, but
it's all in 1 week, and that could still come. You know, when if the underground starts to plateau a little bit, then I think you can bust that out. Yeah. They got the talent to do it, and plus they use some no-name people on there, so it'd be very easy for Shayna or Marina or somebody to beat up a person that we don't really know who they are, and maybe build a match. Look, I bet Dolph Ziggler would do it in a heartbeat. I bet Ziggler would love to go out there and do the job, quote unquote, to Shayna Baszler or Marina Shafir. Guarantee you he would. He don't care. Pay him.
Well, yeah, that's true. Yes. And I absolutely believe they would use some, you know, local talent to help, you know, push that. And I think it would be great. I think it's a great utilization of that talent and a great spot for all three women with Jessamine Duke, Marina Shafir, and Shayna Baszler. I mean, going back to building some credibility around Raw Underground, which kind of sounds like that statement of itself is strange because, you know, how do you build credibility to something that is just so far-fetched? But having real competitors like that there make the difference, you know, and can actually get fans really engaged, because that's also one of the few formats that we actually get to see all three of them together.
Yeah. What's far-fetched about it?
Well, I would say that it's still WWE. Like, you look at Raw Underground and nothing about it is as mysterious or even, you know, and I mean this not in a literal term, but sexy about it, you know? It's supposed to be dark. It's supposed to be grimy. And nothing about it. It just doesn't. You know, there's nothing believable about it. I think the good analogy I heard people using, it's like if Disney tried to produce a horror movie. Like, it just doesn't quite work. WWE is great with lots of other content, and maybe if it was a little bit more cinematic style, then I could kind of believe it if there was a little bit more cinematic quality to it. But, you know, there's just elements of it that you just really don't believe when you watch it as underground.
Yeah, to me, it's fake fighting, whether it's fake fighting. And so it's just another form of it. You take the ropes off and you're doing something a little bit different. But no, I get it. It's not something that WWE has produced before. They probably could have gotten into the mixed martial arts business if they really wanted to and done really well there. But no, I do see what you're saying in terms of why it's a little, you know, just different from what the WWE produces. I think they're doing it successfully, especially early on. They're not doing too much too fast. So
no, I mean, again, it's just that out of the other elements of it that are a little hard to believe, having the actual people there that add credibility to it will help. Absolutely.
I'm interested to see where they do it in the Amway Center. Hopefully they don't keep doing it at the Performance Center and find a place in the Amway Center to set up Raw Underground, because I just want to keep it going. I'm not going to lie. Just want to keep it going. Could we have virtual fans in the Underground? I don't think that would work.
No, because there's also a doorman that lets people in. So, that's very exclusive, I guess. I haven't even really established the guidelines of how do you even get into the underground, even though like there's a camera crew there and people, all over the world get to watch it.
That's where Shane and having Shane in place makes sense because, Shane set that up. Well, Shane, there's also, look, I love Raw Underground, but like, what happened to the Hurt Business? Didn't they take that thing over?
Exactly. That would have added credibility. Like having an actual gang of people, right? I use that term loosely, but just having like more of a faction take it over than Shane McMahon doing it like that, to me would have added way more credibility and a lot more interest to it.
Yeah, like they took it over and then nothing.
Yeah. I had my own theory. I had mentioned this on it's a partner website, luchacentral.com, as we talk primarily Lucha Central. If Legado de Fantasma, that trio showed up, and maybe we get them versus the Hurt Business. That is very much fantasy booking, but at the same time, both, right?
No, but the problem that you run into is the problem that we talked about earlier. None of those guys should be able to do anything to Bobby Lashley. Like, it's just...
No, I'm not saying about that. I'm just saying about just having more character-driven stories as far as, you have maybe these two rival factions fighting over control of Raw Underground. Now, I understand this is a TV show. So part of my mind goes a little bit more into storytelling than, actual performance here. Like I feel like there's an element of storytelling that Raw Underground could be doing, and we'll talk a little bit more about this when it comes to Shayna and Nia. But in general, I'd rather have this being controlled, say, by the Hurt Business, and then operating it because it builds to the story of not only who the Hurt Business is, but their credibility. While it also means like there's a whole element too of Shane McMahon running this just does not feed to me any credibility that this is anything underground. Like it just.
Although it's weird because Shane, and they haven't touched on it, but Shane was a huge ECW fan, wanted ECW to come in the fold. Like this is a lot of what Shane has always wanted, but they haven't talked about it. They just put a different jacket on him and had him go out there as the underground guy, and it does make no sense. But yeah, the whole Hurt Business thing is just mind blowing to me because it was the perfect cliffhanger for the first Raw Underground, and then it just never.
And it disappeared. I want the Hurt Business to run Raw Underground.
Yeah, like it was perfect, and they stopped. Mm-hmm. And look, I love Legado del Fantasma. I want them to feud with Undisputed Era, and who knows if we'll get to see that because I think that would help them out tremendously. But but we digress because that's what we do.
Yes, fantasy booking detour. So this week we did have Marina Shafir fight is the term you use in Raw Underground.
I wouldn't say compete because it was not a competition.
No. I'm sorry. When you're above ground, it's compete. When you're below ground, when you're underground, it's fight.
I agree.
Yeah. Even the terminology is different in Raw Underground, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah.
Should be. Yeah. Notice, though, this week they stopped wearing masks. The performers stopped wearing masks in the underground.
Because it's the underground, there's no rules.
It does make sense. Like
it doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry, it's making my head hurt trying to establish this. Anyways, so okay, back to the main topic. And Marina Shafir kicked some just ridiculous ass on Raw Underground, and then we had Nia Jax show up, and she took over. She believe. Well, she kicked both Marina Shafir and Jessamine Duke. Shayna Baszler got into, not the ring, but wherever the fighting.
It's a ring with no ropes.
It's a ring. Got into the ring to confront Nia Jax. And sure enough, Shane sanctioned it. He said, all right, let's have them fight. And it looked like we were going to have a fight in Raw Underground between Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. But Nia... she slipped out right as the bell rung, and left. So,
which, by the way, why was there a bell? Like there hasn't been a bell.
I thought there was always a bell.
Well, there wasn't a bell in the beginning, but the bell was. It seems weird. There's a bell.
Well, it only rings once. It's just kind of the thing, I don't. Again, logic in this. We're not here to. This is unsolved mystery.
I'm trying to apply logic to an illogical situation. I shouldn't do that. But why is there a bell?
Why is that relevant? But so we have another element to this, is that not only we've seen the interactions on, regular Raw, but now we have this story also being told on Underground. So what do you think, Greg, this means for the story of Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler? Now that we've seen this other element, they've encountered each other on Underground. Do you think we're going to see, what's the next step? Do you think we're going to see them more in Underground, or we're going to continue to see them more, on the top level? I have to figure out a difference between, underground
Overground,
and not underground.
above ground.
Above ground. Yes, on above ground.
But no, if you know anything about the Performance Center, it's not underground, it's just to the left. But but to the left ground doesn't really work. I'm really glad, I was hoping you would ask, and I'm really glad you did ask this question, because this makes perfect sense, and here's why. You said it earlier. Nia Jax has been indefinitely suspended. Nia Jax cannot wrestle Shayna Baszler in a WWE ring because she's not sanctioned to wrestle right now because she's been indefinitely suspended. The only place this match should be able to take place right now is Raw Underground, because that's just Shane saying, yep, let's go. So Nia walking away, I mean, that's trademark booking 101, right? Heel walks away because villain doesn't want to fight, and now eventually that match gets made. So I think our first big built marquee match promoted over a week or two in Raw Underground will be Nia Jax versus Shayna Baszler, because that should be the only place it can take place is in Raw Underground, because Nia Jax is still technically indefinitely suspended. So I do think the step is to eventually build to a match. Now, I know we had a match kind of announced last week on Raw Underground, but this is like the first big marquee match on Raw Underground to me, and I think it happens. Maybe it happens as part of SummerSlam. While I think they're going to go 4 hours on SummerSlam like they usually do, and we'll get more matches added, I have a feeling it'll probably be more something they advertise for Raw. Maybe this coming Monday on Raw. Maybe they'll book it this Monday and show it next Monday. But I think we're going to get this match first. Well, not first because it's already happened, double count out. But we're going to get this match in the Underground. And I think we should get this match in the Underground. That's where they've gone with the storytelling. It makes logical sense. It's the only place Nia can compete. That's kind of her going into Shayna Baszler's domain, which is why she ran off. It all makes sense. And maybe she'll make some demands. Maybe she'll somehow manipulate Shayna into giving her job back if she competes in the Underground. There's a lot you can do with it, too. Plus, you get the match that makes sense.
Yeah. And that, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was going to be kind of, the carrot dangling as far as what's the incentive for Nia to do this. Because ultimately we saw her walk away from this, is that there isn't a whole lot of incentive to have a match with Shayna in her own element. However, if she gets something out of this, if there's a chance she can go back to being a part of the roster, then it could be a risk worth taking. So that's, I think, a big element to this, where I think Shayna's going to be doing the challenging. Shayna's going to be calling it out, but Nia's going to be continuing to manipulate the situation to her advantage, which is really, something that I think her character is good at doing at this point. She's really been able to build up that manipulation angle, as well as far as, the size factor that could play a role. Now, I'm interested in what does the execution of this match look like? We talked about Nia's style being very different, a little even dangerous, but it's not going to, how could it be a regular wrestling match? Like, that to me is enough to be curious to really watch, because in general too, with wrestling, even that big of a size disadvantage could be something that could be explained. But when you're going into more of a fighting style, I think that's actually going to be more of a challenge to tell that story than if they were in a regular wrestling match.
I don't expect it to be long. None of the fights in Raw Underground are long, because real fights typically aren't long. I think the story is very simple, that Nia's out of her element. But this is the only place she can fight right now because of the suspension from Raw. I think she gets her ass kicked. I think there's a lot of stalling. I think there's some cheating. I don't know if you can cheat in Raw Underground. I don't know. But in the end of the day, she's going to get neutralized and get her ass whooped by Shayna Baszler. She'll probably get her win back in an actual ring, leading to the buffer match down the road. Who knows? But I think in the Underground, she's getting her ass whooped. I want to throw something out, though, that can kind of connect some dots of things and maybe some things that we thought were forgotten weren't forgotten. What if this ends with Nia Jax in the Hurt Business?
I wouldn't be mad at that.
Like, we haven't had a lot of women involved in factions, but we're going to talk about one later that seems to involve some women. I think I've always felt like there's something missing from Nia Jax still. And it's not a big something, but it's a little something. It's something that keeps her from being like that top level star, which not everybody can be. Not everybody can be that. I could see the Hurt Business maybe giving her that, just like Bobby Lashley, right? Something missing from Bobby Lashley, the Hurt Business could give that to him. Maybe the Hurt Business is what Nia Jax needs to finally really, truly get over as a mega star. Mm-hmm. And I think that MVP, while, yeah, he's wrestling, but he's really as the mouthpiece is just so good. Nia can talk, but she can't talk that great. She can't talk as well as like Sasha Banks or Bayley or, you know, Becky Lynch, obviously, or Charlotte Flair. But I really think Nia and the Hurt Business, that gets me intrigued.
Yeah, it really does. And I think it's a great pairing. I mean, you have someone with her size, her intimidation factor as well, that the Hurt Business could really benefit from. But also in the same aspect, I mean, MVP could provide her with the opportunity she's been seeking. I mean, we started off in explaining more of the backstory of this. A lot of this started when, you know, she was upset about not getting the title opportunities that she felt that she was owed, missing out on, you know, being so close to the championship of Money in the Bank. You know, this could really be the story of building Nia and Shayna in two separate ways, you know, with the association between Nia and the Hurt Business, and that being more of the, you know, led by MVP and his business sense and his, you know, strategy with the faction, compared to Shayna Baszler, who's using kind of more of her brute strength to make her way through the women's roster. And I think both are great stories to tell, good things, good explanations. And I absolutely think she would benefit from it. And I want to see the Hurt Business back on Raw Underground. And if this helps the Hurt Business get back on Raw Underground, I am all for it.
Who knows? Maybe they've been there. Maybe they've been behind the scenes pulling some strings. Who knows? Like that story can still be told.
Very much. I 100% agree. And going back to what we were talking about earlier, I mean, this match, if we do have a Nia Shayna Baszler fight in Raw Underground, this could be what draws people to it. You know, I appreciate Ivar and
Eric and Dolph was Ivar, right? Is Ivar and I don't know which one is going to be facing Dolph soon. I think it's Ivar. That's how much Ivar's got. Well, I'll say Ivar's got the beard, but they both. Ivar's the bigger of the two. I can't remember who it is either, though.
Mm-hmm. The point is,
one of them.
Not going to. One of the Viking Raiders versus Dolph Ziggler isn't going to draw me to Raw Underground. It's not, and I think the same goes for fans. But you get Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler Raw Underground, I have a feeling you're going to see an uptick in viewership, and that's great. The fact that they even put that emphasis in the women's division in an element like that. Again, some people may think the concept of Raw Underground is a little silly. I think it can be at times as well. But if you're utilizing something like that to help tell a story, especially in elevating your women's roster and your women's division, that's a good sign. It's a good thing. And I think we should, be cognizant of that. And, I think as fans be slightly excited for it, pretty excited enough that, if and when it becomes official, tune into it and see what happens.
Yeah, I agree. I think it hasn't been ruined yet. I do. It's funny. I wouldn't call it silly because it's WWE. You talked about it on the Greg DeMarco show, right? You got to know what you're watching with WWE. And we talked about that, talking about, the whole kayfabe thing with Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville. To me, this fits WWE. They're trying something new. They're doing it. It's way better than Brawl for All was, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. And I think it's got staying power. And as long as they don't screw it up, and they don't, it doesn't feel like they're going to screw it up. But who knows? It's young.
It's young, yes. So those are our thoughts on Nia Jax versus Shayna Baszler. Stay tuned. We hope to have more to share with you on that in the coming weeks. We hope to see this on Raw Underground. We hope to see, I say we, I mean the royal we. I'm speaking for Greg, but things he's already said before, as far as being a big fan of Jessamine Duke, hoping she kicks more ass, hopefully seeing more of Shayna, Jessamine Duke, and Marina Shafir on Raw, because why the hell not? And bring the Hurt Business back to Raw Underground.
Yes.
those are our demands.
There it was, Marina's clap of the week. Bring the Hurt Business back to Raw Underground.
Oh, sweetie, it wasn't it, but you're getting closer.
Closer and closer every week. That's all I can do.
And now we are going to have some commercials from some of our partners.
Lucha-Masks.com by Pro Wrestling Revolution, bringing you, in partnership with Mask Republic, the Lucha Brothers, as well as Japanese legend Ultimo Dragon. Go to Lucha-Masks.com and fight Lucha Strong with masks from your favorite Lucha legends and Pro Wrestling Revolution luchadores. Stay safe in style and represent your favorite luchador. Get yours now at Lucha-Masks.com, powered by Pro Wrestling Revolution.
This is your boy Killy Killer telling you to make sure you check out thechairshot.com, bringing you breaking news, interviews, podcasts galore, everything pro wrestling. Make sure you check it out, thechairshot.com.
I don't know how that got in there. I have no idea.
You have no idea how it got in there. No idea, of course. So the final topic for today's show is one, also WWE related, also things that we've been seeing on Raw and on SmackDown, but one we haven't had a lot of time to talk about. We've seen it enough over the past few weeks, as I told Greg, to be able to formulate an opinion about it and really get a sense as to what our thoughts are regarding Retribution. So this is a group of people that have been causing havoc and mayhem and chaos every week on Raw, and we've also recently seen them now on SmackDown. And it seems like their goal is to interrupt and disrupt weekly broadcasts. Not only just what's happening in the ring and in the crowd, but now as viewers interrupting our stream. Now, we first saw them when it was a video, kind of a recording of them, Molotov cocktails to a like that was pretty intense. Introduction to this big power generator that impacted the power to the facility, Raw. To the Performance Center throughout that night. Then we saw them, anywhere from kicking cars to coming on site into the Performance Center, tearing stuff up. And then this past week on Raw, seeing them actually get into the production truck and destroy property there and cut the feed to go to commercials. So lots of things with Retribution. Now, another element of this is these are masked individuals. They're wearing clothing that covers most of their body, masks, so you really can't see who they are. You can see some of the hair, so you do notice that there is a mix of men and women within Retribution as well. And it's been, I would say, also kind of a polarizing aspect of Raw. I think there's some fans who like it, that it's something different, something unknown, something keeping, on their feet. And then there's others who just think it's kind of silly. In and of itself, I would say that the very first signing of Retribution piqued my interest. Absolutely. Something that we had not seen before with the WWE, as far as, a faction, a group that's intention is really to put mayhem, to disrupt Raw. But as far as that cycle going every week, we're getting to a point where we're saying, so what? Like, what's the deal here? What are you doing? So I don't know. Are you at that point, Greg? Like, what was your very first impression of Retribution, and where are you at now a few weeks later?
So I was excited about the possibility of Retribution when it was announced, and I was fine with everything they did in the first week. And I'm so excited that I wrote an article about it. I wrote an article about it. It was top 5 things Retribution can do on Raw as their second week. And basically they did nothing. Like we said it before on the show, right? Just do something. And everything they're doing is peripheral. Everything they're doing is it doesn't really make an impact anymore. And I feel like by the time they reveal themselves, this thing might be dead on arrival, and it might be, you know, wrestle crap 10 years from now. I'm really concerned because I think they had something, and I think they kind of blew it a little bit already. I was suggesting things that would further the storyline, right? Win the 24/7 championship. Have someone go in Raw Underground. Have someone get accidentally unmasked, like a major someone like Tommaso Ciampa or Leo Rush or two of the rumored members. Instead, they just kind of done the same stuff. And then the issue you run into is that for everything that we complain about the fans online, they're also too smart. Because 1 week on SmackDown, they beat up Jessie Kamea in the crowd. The next week on Raw, she's under a mask as a member of Retribution because you can tell by the hair, which she posted about on social media, and then you see the hair right there the next week. So they're just kind of throwing people under these masks to use them and maybe send people off the scent of who they really are. Obviously, if Dijakovic shows up, he's huge. You know who he is. He's the one that I think would show up and get unmasked right away as a member, so at least we have something. But, like, I feel like you've got to give us something, and you really haven't given us anything. Mm-hmm. And so my excitement is gone already, and you got to do a lot to win me back. Now, I suggested things like have a champion do an open challenge and a member of Retribution win. Have them make some demands. Like have them take a hostage. Maybe taking a hostage wouldn't be the best thing to do right now, but have them make some demands. Why are they even here? Like, we have no idea.
That's going to be my next question.
Now.
Why
like,
are they even here? Now, I do have an interesting point. So talking about taking something over. Now, I do think that something that really could happen that we could see soon. So they're escalating as far as their movement throughout the back. This week, they destroyed one of the production trucks. We did see them also on SmackDown. So they're not just Universal 2 Raw. We do see them on different brands now. What if they were to take over the Thunderdome this week with the big launch, with, you know, this big reveal that's happening, that they take over Thunderdome, and that's where they start to either make their demands or they start, explaining behind it. And that's kind of a way to hold up the show, to disrupt it without, getting too deep. Now, it does lead back to the hacker thing that we never got any closure about and whatnot. Maybe the hacker's part of it. I don't even know. But that was one of the thoughts that came to mind, is that when I started to put these things together, and what I think could be a very interesting way to play on multiple elements of current events is have them take over the Thunderdome. This has been all over social media, all over the news. Fans have got excited. So why not hijack one of the biggest events that's happening on TV now? While, it still allows them to showcase that they are, unstoppable. Now, it is different than causing total destruction, but I think eventually you have to evolve. Like, you can't just keep destroying things and expecting people to just say, oh, well, that keeps me tuned in every week. Eventually, as a group, they have to evolve. Now, maybe that's how they got our attention at first, and now we need to know, what is your reason? What are you doing? Why are you doing this? Who are you? I feel like at least having that segment of who are you, or why are you doing this? What's the point of this? At least will keep me interested enough to wait for the who. But that's my kind of fantasy booking. Let them take over Thunderdome. I mean, hell, people are having low expectations for it anyways. Yeah. And they're already expecting, glitches. Why not play on that and have them take it over and be a little bit, I want to say more sophisticated. I know that's not the best term, but again, you have to evolve than just like destroying shit, because that's not the basis of a faction. Like, eventually,
I think sophisticated is actually a really good way to describe what they should be. A little more sophisticated in what they're doing. Have a motivation, have a plan, do something. The Thunderdome thing you bring up is a great element, because there's supposedly going to be 1,000 people watching via the Thunderdome. And first of all, I fully expect this Friday on SmackDown to see 1,000 Bray Wyatts at some point. Like, I just and that's going to be great. And I think that's how you establish the fact that the Thunderdome can be used in that way. Then having them taken over, because the thing about the Thunderdome is that you can have it be 1,000 screens, you can have it be one screen, you can have one wall. There's a lot you can do with it, and there's a lot that Retribution can use, and I think that would be a good way to advance this thing a little bit. It'll be interesting if TakeOver is at the Amway Center as well. That's the first time Retribution is in the same place as NXT. And it could be interesting to see if they have any, especially if they're rumored to be from NXT, see if they have any involvement in that regard. I don't think they will, but I think it's going to be specific to Raw and SmackDown. But I think Thunderdome could give them a new element and something that could hopefully advance this thing forward, because you got to do something.
So another thing I've been thinking about is something that's come out of the past few weeks of Raw and SmackDown is we're finally getting somewhat of a united front of current roster members trying to, build up a resistance against Retribution. And that gets me thinking, maybe by this point, I hope that we, actually get some, information as to who Retribution is, but maybe not. We're in August. We got September, October, November. And November is usually Survivor Series. And, last year the big draw was Raw versus SmackDown versus NXT. Maybe we don't have that this year. Maybe it's a combined element, who knows. But do you think long-term story-wise we could see a Retribution faction in a Survivor Series type of match against, say, this resistance of roster members? I think maybe it could be sooner than that, but it makes sense with some of the direction that they've gone with over this week that, both sides of the roster, both Raw and SmackDown, are building up a force to try and combat, Retribution in some way.
I think that there's a possibility there, especially because it could be a mixed tag situation for a Survivor Series, which we don't always see. It'd be really hard to not do Raw, SmackDown, and NXT this year since NXT won last year. That would be, what a great move, right? We beat you last year and we didn't even come in this year. But that did so much for NXT and was great. And the whole build to it was amazing as well. I think it's so easy to forget about that because it feels like 7 years ago, thanks to the pandemic. But I'm cautious because I think about what happened with the Nexus and how hot they were and how they just got completely destroyed by one guy. And so I'm a little concerned in that regard. Would Survivor Series help them? You got to win if they're in it, and would WWE do that? So or would they win, but would Retribution win, but they would win against low-level talent who then really, who did you beat? And then you're a mid-card act. So I could do it, but you got to do it big. And I don't know if they would. I just don't, unless they're solidly behind Retribution, which means it's got to be some members that they really want to build. And that's a big caveat to it too, because we still don't know who's involved. And that's something that I think we got to know at some point, at least somewhat. Yeah. Doesn't have to be everybody, but it'd be nice if they had a leader and a mouthpiece.
Do you even think they know who's part of Retribution at this point? That there's just so many people in the mix that maybe some of them are throwing us off a guard. But
I do think they know. I think they know, and I think they are trying to throw us off because people are so smart, because the internet loves NXT, and so it's really easy to pick out Tommaso Ciampa and Lio Rush and Vanessa Bourne and Chelsea Green, who were all the people that were there the first week and really have not been as involved since then. And Dijakovic, you're going to know who that is. And he's done things on social media to make you think he's involved, and he should be involved. That would be a great way to introduce him. And I think it wouldn't surprise me if that's kind of what the group looked like as they come out. Lio Rush to me would be the biggest surprise of them all because he retired, but damn sure did sound like him when we heard one of them. And I would love it if it was him. I would love for him to get that opportunity. Mm-hmm. But I'm just in do something mode right now. I just did do something of significance. Right now, what they did this past week, they took over a production truck, whatever, and then they, one point they put a cement block through a window. I don't feel like these things are significant things that we would remember for a really long period of time. I like when they attacked the fake crowd on SmackDown. To me, that was a big deal because WWE has not really acknowledged them as a fake crowd. Yeah. But yet they're not going to let somebody attack fans. And so they really played on the fact that, okay, you as the fan know what's going on here. You know this is performance center talent, so we're going to have them attack them. Because if they were real fans that they were attacking, then they would have been arrested and nowhere to be found again. It would have been like the Hurt Business taking over Underground. But it's just do something. Just do something of significance so we have something to sink our teeth into. And while I'm worried they're going to be dead on arrival, I do still think there's time to fix that. And there's plenty they could do. You just got to do it.
Do something. That is, I think, the big goal is I think they've done enough damage and destruction for a while. I hope, and it could be the Raw after SummerSlam, or even Friday night. Maybe Friday night's too soon, but sometime soon.
Right now,
they're just tearing shit up, and that's fun for a while. But like, what's the point? What is the point? And that's another big thing too. You do all of this, and if the reasoning behind it isn't as strong on the conviction side, and people kind of don't align with or understand where they're coming from, it's going to seem like all of this destruction was for nothing. The longer that you do it, if you do it a few times and then you bring out the why, okay, it's to get some attention. But now this process looks like that, you have such the strong conviction or this reasoning or purpose behind doing what you're doing, that if it's not up there as to why, no one's going to care. People are going to think exactly, you're just doing this because you're bored teenagers. And that's absolutely, not the case with them. But I think you're actually going to lose the meaning behind their purpose as a faction. And the longer you do this, the more you risk that. So I agree. Do something and do something soon. Show us something. Reveal one of your cards. That doesn't mean you have to reveal all of them all at the same time, but reveal something so that people are going to the fans can get intrigued enough to continue to watch and evolve. Be a little bit more sophisticated in your approach, and I think we'll get somewhere. I think we're going to be okay if you follow these steps on how to cause mayhem and carnage.
Yes. Whatever intern WWE has assigned to listen to this show this week, you did a poor job with my article and passing that information along. So either get a different intern or pass this information along. It's a real simple message. Okay, I get it. My article was 5 different things. There was some complexity involved. I get it. But this is very simple. 2 words. Do something. That's it. 2 words. Do, and then something. Just pass it.
From your friends, Miranda and Greg.
Do something.
Yes, that's supposed to be a heart. That's a heart.
It became one. At first, it was a melon.
Eventually, it was. It takes a second. Sincerely, us. Do something. Okay. Well, we made it to another end of the next edition, last edition. It's not the last. We're going to do this again. But it's late and my words are jumbled. But we made it to the end of another edition of the #Miranda Show. Thank you so much for listening, for watching. If you are watching this on YouTube, if you want to watch, you should go to YouTube at Chairshot Media's YouTube page. You can find this. You can see all of our silly expressions and faces and these dimples right here. They're still looking real cute. You could do all of that on YouTube. Of course, listening to this show on your favorite podcast streaming platform. And of course, you can find this on thechairshot.com.
Thechairshot.com. Always use your head.
Don't forget, you can follow Greg on social media at Chairshot Greg. You can follow me, Miranda Morales, at the #Miranda. And you can follow thechairshot.com on the social medias at Chairshot Media. Don't forget, I may be taking over the Chairshot's Twitter account, which is more than likely I'm going to be doing that for this Saturday's Takeover 30. So again, at Chairshot Media, go ahead and follow it so that you can get my attempt at Twitter for whatever that's worth. It's pretty funny. I know how to do GIFs. I know how to @ people. Yes, and it's developing. I'm growing as a Twitterist. Is that what's the Twitter?
It is now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what the terminology is for someone who tweets. But that's just what I'm going to utilize.
The terminology I use for somebody who tweets doesn't apply to you because it's derogatory. So.
Oh, and that's why I only go on Twitter for takeovers and other special occasions. Yes. But go ahead, find us on social media. Also, go to thechairshot.com where you can find news, analysis, and opinions, articles like Greg's article, lots of fantastic podcasts that are part of the Chairshot Radio Network. And, make sure that you let us know your thoughts on this week's episode of the show. You can let us know on social media and on YouTube in the comment section. Also, for all of the podcasts on the Chairshot Radio Network, make sure to rate, review, and subscribe. Make sure that you are listening to them. Let us know your thoughts. I always greatly appreciate all of you who listen to this show. It's such a fun time for me to be able to do this with one of my dear friends, but also to share this with all of you. I hope you enjoy this show. Let us know about any topics you'd like for me to cover in the future. Because lots of times, I do this not on the fly. I plan. However, it's always, too, by kind of the seat of our pants. Sometimes some cool topics come up and cool things come up and news breaks and we cover that. Sometimes it's just random ideas and thoughts that we have as well. So you never know what you're going to get.
You had dates this week. Like you had dates, things happen. So obviously you planned. So
I planned. I did some strategery as I was working and preparing for shows this week. Yes. A great plan of strategery. But thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to go to thechairshot.com. Follow us on social media. And as always, make sure that you always do it soft style.
Stay safe and
I'm playing the wrong thing. I'm really mad at myself now. Now I got to play the right thing.
We had it? Yeah. We're back. And don't forget, well, what is my catchphrase?
You just said it.
To do it soft style? Wear it soft style?
Keep it
soft style.